Hi guys. So this is to walk you guys through your first essay assignment. And you guys have read a number of texts that kind of brought us from post-Civil War up through World War I. And you've looked at how these different authors have helped frame or create this new quote-unquote American identity. So the prompt for this one is pretty simple. You're going to choose one of the authors that you read in this unit and develop a written analysis of a work that we read in the unit from that author, incorporating contextual elements related to their life, the cultural history, or the larger historical impact of the work. So basically what you're doing is you're doing what I do in the lectures. You're analyzing the literature and then looking at how the historical context either informs the literature or the literature becomes something that represents the historical context. So you might think about things like the social, economic, or philosophical changes that were taking place during this time as this new American identity was being formed. So some works to think about, or some questions to think about, I'm sorry. How does the author and work influence or impact the social, political, or economic changes happening? How does the author and the work fit or not fit with this new quote-unquote American identity? How does the author and the work help shape the new American ideal? And then how does the author approach the subject matter? How does the work achieve a particular social or political goal or message? How is it historically situated? So really what you're doing is thinking about why does the author and the text matter in this time period. But the primary thing that I want you to do, and this is really important, I want to make sure that you guys don't write a history essay or a biography essay. You're writing a literary analysis essay. So just like you see me break down the literature with different literary elements, so looking at things like characterization, symbolism, imagery, syntax, diction, structure, rhyme, meter, whatever it might be, focus primarily on the literary elements and then secondarily think about why the historical aspects of it matter. So why does it matter that we study these works? Make sure that you have a clear thesis, a clear argumentative thesis and main ideas, and that you expand on those with good evidence from the text. So that means pull out specific quotes from the text that show what you're talking about. Use specific words, phrases, or passages to support your claims, in other words. This will help you create the in-depth literary analysis. Your essay does need to include one research resource. Make sure that you cite it correctly and include it in a bibliography, as long as it is a credible source. It could be anything like PBS or history.com, biography.com. Of course, the one you're not allowed to do is Wikipedia. But make sure you do include one source. Your essay needs to be 2 to 3 pages in length and is due on Sunday, October 27th at 11:59 p.m. Remember that everything is checked for plagiarism through SafeAssign, and do note that the 2-page minimum means that you have to be to the bottom of the second page at least. If you do less, I'll take off points. The authors that we read in this unit are Whitman, Du Bois, Washington, Chopin, and Zit-Khalasa. And then you guys will be assessed on making sure that you have good, close analysis of the literary work and its major ideas, as secondarily the historical context, whether it's the biography of the author or the historical situation. Good evidence from both your primary and your secondary sources in the form of quotes, proper number of research sources, so at least one, proper page length, MLA and citations, and a good essay structure. So that means you have a solid intro with a thesis statement, 2 to 3 main ideas with evidence to support an analysis, and a conclusion which restates the thesis and the main ideas in new words. So don't just tack on a conclusion at the end. You want to make sure you fully wrap up your argument. And that is carefully and clearly organized and cohesive. So some things you could think about when you're writing your literary analysis. You could think about archetypes and characterization. You could think about protagonists and antagonists, major or secondary characters, development. Are they flat? Are they dynamic? Are they round? Think about different literary devices and why they're used. Why is it important? that someone like, for example, Zit Khalasa uses specific imagery to describe the landscape when she's on the train, or metaphors, or personification, or foreshadowing, flashbacks, similes, irony. Why are these devices used, and why are they important? You can think about structure. So think about the dramatic arc. Where's the rising action, the climax, the falling action, the resolution? What's the conflict? Is it man versus man, man versus society, man versus self? Think about the resolution, the solution. Think also about the point of view or the narration. You can think about concepts like theme, symbol, motif, illusions, style. And then lastly and secondarily, think about the author, the work, the historical events, the issues discussed in the text from a historical perspective. So, for example, if you're looking at Walt Whitman, a poem from Walt Whitman, one of the ones you read in the unit, you might look at something like the rhyme scheme, or the way he personifies the concept of nationhood, or you might look at, for example, with Chopin, you might look at how she develops the protagonist or the antagonist character. What is the conflict? Is it man versus society or man versus self? Think of things like motifs, illusions, themes. All of these are very rich for analysis, and there's a lot you could cover, so make sure you keep your argument nice and narrow and focused. That's really the key. So if you guys have any questions about this, let me know. But as I said, the most important thing is that you keep the focus on analyzing the text as a piece of literature, and then secondarily think about why it's important that we study this work historically. So for example, why is it important that we have Kate Chopin as one of the early pseudo-feminist writers? Why is it important that we have representation from a Native American female writer? Or W. Du Bois, or Booker T. Washington, or Whitman? What is happening during this era that's so important that we have the representation from these authors? If you have questions, let me know. Again, this is very broad, and it's purposely so because I want you guys to choose the work and the concepts that are most interesting to you to write about. So please let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, go ahead and move on.